Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. In today's video I'm going to be taking you through my personal build for the RCR Garage Civic built to a 700 pp spec, meaning that we don't have to sacrifice any power at all. We can just build this thing to its full potential and let it rip around Le Mans 700. Now, as a side note, this car also works around the Bathurst 700, which is a new event that, whilst the payout is a bit lower, you can still earn up to 1,000,000 credits per hour if done right. So let's take you through the build. We're going to start off with the wheels and aero. It's going to be 18 inches for the wheels. Use whatever you want. A wide width, and the offset is going to be standard. This cannot be changed. Now, in terms of the custom aero parts, the front is standard with the huge splitter at the front. On the side, once again, is going to be standard, and then at the rear is standard as well with the big rear diffuser. For the rear wing, we have it at Type B, and this is going to complete the aero parts for this vehicle. Now let's move on next to the sheet itself. So we're going to run racing mediums as standard on this. Ensure that you've got a pair of intermediates and heavy wets as well. Suspension is fully customizable. In terms of the body height, it's 110 front, 120 rear. This allows it not to catch on the arches. Compression 35, expansion 45. Frequency is 390 front and 395 rear. Camber angle 1.5 front and 2 rear. 0.05 outwards for the toe angle front and 0.15 inwards for the toe angle rear. Fully customizable diff with the initial torque at 40, acceleration 40 and braking down at 5. Fully customizable racing transmission, set it to 350, and these are the manual adjustments. This allows you to go 3 laps and make the car a lot less thirsty, ensuring that you can short shift and retain as much fuel as possible without sacrificing too much in terms of top speed. Downforce at the rear is 400, no power restriction obviously. High RPM turbocharger with anti-lag set to strong. Now, in terms of upgrade parts, there isn't too much here, but we do have the racing silencer, racing slotted discs, and then on the right hand side, just down here at the bottom, we have the increased body rigidity. And that is literally it. Feel free to pause at any moment for 697.01 pp and almost 600 brake horsepower. So how is this car built? So I actually spoke directly to the guys at RCR Garage to get a bit more information on this car, and there's a few glaring issues that are actually wrong in game. So to start with, this car naturally puts out 420 brake horsepower currently with 11 pounds of boost. Now, the other glaring issue is that this car, when it's actually hitting a track, runs on slicks. They don't keep it on street tyres. Now, Polyphony have gone down the design choice of putting this thing on, I think, sports mediums as standard, when in reality, if this thing was hitting up a track, it'd be running slicks, meaning that, you know, we're kind of covering that off and getting it more to its real world potential. Obviously, understeer is always going to be a thing. So I've also tuned the suspension to try and adapt to the FF layout, meaning that the handling overall is much better now on those racing tyres as well. I've also increased the gear ratios to also kind of adapt to the fuel, so it's not drinking as much. If you have it as standard, you'll be pitting every 2 laps, which is just absolutely frustrating. With the gear ratios that we've got here, we can actually, you know, get that out to around about 3 laps. Now, when you do begin, I'm going to take you through the way I run this car. There's a few ways you want to try and run it specifically. The main way is short shifting. Again, this will kind of reduce the amount of tire spin that you're going to get. Again, that's not going to help with the understeer of this vehicle. So ensure that you're short shifting, you're doing quite a bit of lifting. Not only will that also help out with your grip levels, it'll also help you conserve your fuel as well, meaning that you can easily stretch this out to 3 laps per tank. So we're here to make money, so the first thing I suggest you do is just put your AI at easy. There is a reason for this. This is because it will actually reduce your chances of having to run a 7th lap. Now, if the rain comes along as well, this will always work in your favour, mainly because the AI will be stuck in the middle of the track. Now, what this will allow you to do is essentially get to the end, stop and wait, let the counter go down and just pass over directly at the 30-minute mark, meaning that you can just instantly repeat and boot up another session within seconds, meaning that you are constantly going to be making profit on this vehicle. There is another new thing that you can check out as well, which is a weather radar, which will scan across to show you the 1-hour weather forecast. This way you can then predict your race much more easily and strategize correctly. Now, in terms of checking that, you will do that in the main menu. I do suggest checking it. I'm not sure if it's 100% dot on every single time. So I do recommend just monitoring the weather radar throughout the race as well, because obviously you're not going to memorize that when you're absolutely plowing yourself through at 150 mile an hour plus through some of these corners. So once you do get to lap 2, I recommend just monitoring the weather radar. This way you can just give yourself a nice little refresh and just continue to monitor the weather situation. Now, I checked the pre-race weather radar. I was pretty certain that, to be honest, the rain wasn't going to give me much trouble, at least early on. As you can see, although we spotted rain, it did kind of move away and didn't bother wetting the track. So that meant once we got to the end of lap 3 and our tyres were absolutely shredded due to the FF layout of this car, we could just pit in, put a new set of mediums on and just continue on as usual. Now, again, we're just monitoring for rain on the weather radar. We know that if push comes down to shove, we can just pit again on lap 6, or we may be able to stop and wait depending on what the weather's going to do. So at this point in time, I'm just going to put a new set of mediums on since there is no rain incoming and that has missed us, and I'm just going to fill the car up to full. Now, this will probably make us good to the end. However, towards the last 10 minutes of the race, as you can see, the rain was going to come. So it does appear that my pre-race weather radar was correct. In the final 10 minutes, the rain was beginning to come. And well, this one was absolutely going to drench the track. So with a bit of fuel to spare on lap 5, I turned the engine up and tried to get the lap finished as quick as possible. Once I got to the end of lap 5, it was time to cover it off with a set of intermediates, get those on the car and just fill the car to full. This way we're just ensuring that we've got enough fuel no matter what happens. So just ensure that you're covered off, you're covering off the rain and you're covering off the fuel as well, just to ensure that you don't run out. And then you can realistically at this point in time just run the engine at any fuel mix you want. All I've got to do now is just finish up this 6th lap and then, well, stop and wait. The AI is already caught out in the middle of the track where it's an absolute downpour. Now, I was going to leave this to the end as a bit of a blooper, but I thought it was just too funny not to include what actually happens to the AI. I know some people might not look through the replays, but trust me, if you do get a bit of heavy rain, this is what your AI tends to do. And I also have an absolutely hilarious clip of an Audi TT just getting itself completely stuck for around about 5 minutes before it finally got going again. So yeah, it turns out my AI definitely had a few glaring problems to deal with, considering they was stuck at kind of the midpoint of the track, just absolutely pirouetting around and just getting themselves genuinely stuck. It was just rather quite funny, and I definitely felt like I had to include it. So as you can see, all of these cars are just going to be absolutely no issue at all, and this is why rain actually works in your favour, and it's great to be able to show you actually what happens to these guys if a downpour does happen. Now I'm going to fast forward this clip and, well, hopefully it kind of makes sense just how stuck the Audi TT got itself. Now this is something akin to the likes of Gran Turismo 2, where if you used to spin out the AI, they kind of just get stuck and start backwards and forwarding, ramming the barriers. It really did feel like a bit of a throwback. Now let's get back to the end of the strategy after all of that chaos had happened to our AI. We've got around about 2 minutes left on the clock, over a 3-minute gap, and we can just stop and wait and cross the line as soon as that 30-minute timer runs down. And that is going to be it. Job done for the RCR Garage Civic. Now, in terms of our overall laps, overall time was a 30 minutes 1.618. As you can see, the stop and wait really does work in your favour. You can just go ahead and restart the event instantly. In terms of our fastest lap, it was a 4 minute 14.556. Unfortunately, we did have the engine turned down. We couldn't hit that 200 plus miles per hour that this car can do once it's fully upgraded and hitting those high speed straights. The payout, well, it's the typical 825,000 credits for around about 30 minutes of your time. So that's build 1 of 3 covered for the money methods. The RCR Garage does work very, very well. It just takes quite a bit of fine tuning and trying to make sure that the tyres don't kind of catch on the arches. I was noticing that that was the worst problem, so raising the body height definitely does help out with that. Now this is a very usable car, to be quite honest, once you've got it more fine tuned. Again, its only downside is the fuel consumption and its ability to just absolutely tip itself on pretty much any curb, which can lead to some very, very funny results. Now this build also does transfer over to any of the other 700 pp events. It does work quite well at Bathurst, which is the new one, which you can make up to around about 1 million credits per hour if you want something a little different. So I'll get a method up tomorrow with the FL5 Type R, as well as covering that Mazda 3 Group 4 to see if we can do anything quite special with that one. Probably not, but it may be worth chatting about in the end. I'll see you later on, guys. Take care. Peace.